Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Everybody likes to contradict me when I talk about this topic. Talk about timeless cameras. Well, what's the definition of a timeless camera? It's going to be a short video. At least I think it is. I know it is, yes. What's a timeless camera? Well, at least it's extremely relevant for 10 years or more. Now, I'm probably going to miss out on some camera in the enunciation of these several cameras. Why did you mention so-and-so? There'll be valid reasons why I didn't, but timeless camera is one that remains extremely relevant for at least 10 plus years, if not more. When it comes to film cameras like the 6-7 Pentax, my God, that thing's been going on for decades. Of course, that's a film camera. We're talking about digital. Really, all digital cameras are ultimately the same. I've cracked open countless hundreds of digital cameras, and every digital camera is really only a few fundamental components. A shutter mech, sensor/sensor assembly, if that includes an IBIS mech, a main board, and really the EVF/Pentaprism, the viewfinder system. This is where we're talking about mirrorless or talking about a conventional DSLR. There are a very small handful of timeless cameras, and I own most of these. And I've always been right on this, even since the early days of the Nikon D3. I said that this will be a timeless camera because it is a pinnacle at which the photographic technology is reached, and the output is so excellent that nobody, even 10 years hence, if it's still working and properly taken care of, anybody's going to bitch about the output of this camera. Because ultimately magazine sizes and billboards and everything else has remained the same now for the past many, many decades. And it's not about megapixels, it's about viewing distance. Like some of the largest roadside billboards are taken with, I mean, hell, some of them are taken with 8 megapixel cameras. It's about viewing distance. So when you talk about how large, how many megapixels you need to make a super enormous print, like there's a buddy of mine that took pictures of a downtown police station of like sort of community trust garbage, and he took those pictures with an XT2. So that's more than enough megapixel for these huge ass banners that were hanging from the ceiling, for example. But timeless cameras in no particular order. The Nikon D3 and D3S, the Nikon D4, the XT1, the XT2 Fujifilm, the X Pro 2, definitely the Nikon D500, the XH1 for certain. The D850 will be considered a timeless camera also. The output is stellar. It's the world's first, not my opinion, it's a fact, the world's first all-purpose. It used to be, a jack of all trades and only a master of one or none. This is a jack of all trades and a master of all trades. Ultimately, it's the single best do-it-all DSLR full-frame camera ever made, and that's a fact. So the Nikon D850. So as far as the Nikon, we're talking about the D4, the D3, D3S, Nikon D850, the Nikon D500. I could possibly throw in another Nikon or two there, but those are the ones that actually stand out. In other words, you take decent care of them, and no one's going to complain about the output or anything on them for 10 plus years. Definitely the entire GFX series of Fujifilm cameras. Medium format has far, far better future-proofness. It's not really a word. Future-proof standing power than all medium formats always have had that. Same is true of like the old film medium formats. Nothing, those twin lens reflexes. Film is basically dead, but 6-7 Pentaxes. I mean, the glass was incredible. Just tank of a camera. Old Mamiyas, old Hassies. But medium format has always had incredible staying power. Incredible. So all the GFX cameras, XT1, XT2, X Pro 2, XH1, XT3 as well. There are timeless cameras. And of course they're not timeless. I mean, we're talking about technology here, so there will be a limit reached of pixel pitch, which has already really been reached. We have to talk about a new revolution of sensor tech, and also too, we're talking about going to global shutters and CF Express cards, which are blazing fast. but I mean nothing major. There's nothing major on the horizon. I know of several things, and camera companies are always working 5 years in advance of whatever it is they put out. Fujifilm absolutely has been working on the GFX 100 since day one. They had notification on that new sensor for at least 3.5 years. At least. And that's before the first GFX camera came out. In other words, they were already in planning on the GFX 100 before the first GFX camera came out. That's not my opinion. That's a hardcore fact. I know that's absolutely true. But every camera company does that, Nikon, Canon included. They've always have to be working 3 years plus in advance, usually 5 years. But those are timeless cameras. But in technology, what is timeless? Timeless is basically what I've denotated it as, which is 10 plus years or more of a very viable usage that no one's really got a complaint about. I mean, look at the Nikon D4. Look when the hell that thing came out. That camera still sells hot as hell. That camera is just absolutely the tits. It's amazing. All current GFX cameras, like, well, you know, what about the current two GFX slow cameras compared to the new 100 megapixel? And man, I spent 10 days with that camera, and I got my money saved up to buy that camera. But the current GFX cameras are going to be absolutely timeless. Also, they're hardcore quality Japanese-made, brilliant output. I mean, 10 years from now, would you bitch about the output on a current 51 megapixel GFX camera? Well, hell no, you're not. You're not. I mean, the output is just incredible. GFX 100 is absolutely amazing. But yes, timeless cameras do exist. People kept telling me, you know, what the hell's a timeless camera? We're talking about technology here. You know, every camera's obsoleted every few years. That's not true. If that were true, then the Nikon D4 would be relegated to the turd heap. But it's not. It still sells hot as hell. A used Nikon D500, which has been out now for a few years, still sells hot as hell because the camera is timeless. D850 is the same way. The XT1 still sells hot as hell. So does the XT2. Those are timeless, quality damn cameras. As long as you don't have humidity intrusion and the onset of corrosion, you know, these digital cameras are all the same. Mainboard, shutter mech, sensor assembly, and viewfinder / optics, pentaprism viewfinder system, and reflex mirror mech, really in the case of a DSLR, but that's the actual major component in a DSLR. I left off the mirror mech, which almost never fails these days. I spent a long time since I've heard of a mirror mech fail that was self-induced, you know, where it actually failed on its own. That technology has been perfected almost 3 decades now. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and hope you have a good day. If you like these videos, you always click the link below. Tell me how much you hate me, whatever floats your boat, whatever pets your pickle.